Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. If you are new, subscribe, hit the bell button, leave a like and comment. Like every Monday, premium videos go on YouTube, so hi. Welcome new members in premium, obviously you get this early. So, lots of things happening. Market pullback, a little bit of a delay on this video because of what's happening, so want to try and catch some of this at least. So there's been a few little, in my opinion, when I've been looking at the market and I've been talking about it recently, I've said it looks quite toppy. It looks very much unstable in terms of the market, in terms of the fundamental element that it's risen so much and it's not pulled back yet, which it's kind of been slaughtering the altcoins in some ways, but we're quite lucky in the fact that the total 2 chart has been going up. So what's happening in terms of news and stuff before we crack on with looking at some charting? There's been a lot of moving around recently, and this is one here. High volume transfer to an exchange was made on the February 21st. It's risen kind of some eyebrows in terms of the price correction, and this is probably playing out right now in terms of what we're looking at. It's a big move. An entity or group of people for 28,000 BTC worth 1.5 billion to an address that reports to an OKX over-the-counter service. So OKX tend to have a lot of whales trading with them essentially, so it could be quite interesting to see what that one is, but no one knows what it is. It's unaccredited, it's a big one, so we need to kind of hopefully figure that out, because we don't want it to be a scam. We don't want it to be any kind of like wash trading kind of issue where we've had in the past, so just need to be careful. But we've also got obviously liquidity here. As of late data on the exchange show, massive drop in the exchange reserves because people are buying it and sending it out. So there's been a lot of scarcity factors coming in now, which is obviously increasing the price. We understand how the dynamic of that works. Obviously, the less you've got, the more you got to pay for it, essentially. Simple as that. So it's getting interesting to see what's happening here. But we also need to talk about other things as well in terms of the industry. Ethereum developers are eyeing that in July, we may well have something to do with gas saving fees, which is the main, protocol that they're looking to bring out. But at the end of the day, this isn't going to solve all the problems. It's massive at the moment. It's expensive as hell to do certain things. Like I put some money into Ledger Live to do some interest earnings on the compound protocol. Wow, it was expensive to do that. But at the same time, yes, I'll make it back in, passive income that way. But it's ridiculous. But it shouldn't have any effect on the prices, but it should have an effect on maybe the use case of it, essentially, in my opinion. But that would probably affect the prices because more people will probably tend to use it then. Because what we're seeing over the last few days is a suppression of Ethereum. There's been no growth in Ethereum, essentially. We've had one little pump to the upside, but the BTC pair is really low valued. That is probably in conjunction with the fact of the Binance chain kicking off, and that's obviously gone from a massive price rise over the last week or two. So as much as this says it's not going to affect the price, it will, because people go, oh, Ethereum, okay, boom, off we go, because the fees are a lot cheaper, which makes sense. Other things to talk about, bad news essentially, is South Korea are looking to, this is brand new by the way, fresh off the press, fast track 20% tax on cryptocurrency, which kind of sucks. We all know taxation sucks, especially if in the UK, in America, whatever. We know it's pretty bad. Some countries get away with it, but they're looking to fast track that in. It's going to happen everywhere you go. Every country is going to have tax for crypto, which kind of sucks. But let's talk about some market dynamical stuff. So first things first to get off my chest. Most people know that in VIP, I was talking about Kusama. So let me refresh because that's obviously gone down in price. So I've got some scraps on the exchange, little bits and bobs from little random stuff. I'm looking to build a dollar cost averaging position in Kusama over a period of time, just to build a position over the course of 2021. If it makes some money, it does. I'm quite bullish on it in the long term in terms of what it's going to achieve with Polkadot. Obviously, market's correcting right now, so it might be a good time to buy some more. But when we start looking at the fundamentals of what the ecosystem of Polkadot's going to do, this is a canary system, essentially, the canary network. So it's going to have different projects on here, testing and stuff like that. But it looks in my opinion, a relatively safe bet, not financial advice by the way, that this would probably go up with Polkadot. With Polkadot getting more mainstream, with more parachain auctions coming live over 2021, more stuff will feed onto Kusama as well, even though there's a lot more on here at the moment, which is why the price action has been pretty positive, which is always good to see. But let's talk about some market dynamic stuff. So the first thing we need to look at is obviously the dominance chart. Market's pulling back quite aggressively at the moment, but as I've been mentioning over the last few weeks, the dominance chart has been in this lullish area around 62 to 60% levels for a while, even though Bitcoin's at $54,000 right now, even though it's been nearly 60,000 essentially all-time high levels, give or take around that number. So we're not at the dangerous side of it going up, but at the end of the day, a market pullback for me, Bitcoin essentially, is a good thing for the industry of altcoins, because there's profit spillover will eventually go into altcoins. And even though we're still seeing a bit of a pullback today, when we normally see a pullback in Bitcoin, which I've mentioned before in the past, we tend to get a big massive upside to the altcoin. So we've seen here last time, this was when the altcoin market was around 70%, 74% give or take. It went all the way down, and obviously Bitcoin went in a rump, but at the end of the day, the total two chart still went up. So that combination of the total two chart still going up is still massively important, which is always key. So if we're looking at this now and we're looking at pullback ranges, if we're going to go from this level here on the weekly time frame, just to give you an idea, so what we're looking at here, we've got a few little areas to look at. We've got this level here, which is the 382, which has been a previous level of support and resistance in the past. That was a natural level. We've obviously got, down here, 39, which is in and around where this region is, so in between here. So we may well be looking at a good little level here to look at, but if we look at this in the daily time frame, you can kind of see why I'm picking that area, because it's kind of an obvious turning point. It's an obvious point where the start of the move happened. So if we are looking at that, we've got loads of levels to look at and pinpoint. But if we're looking at this as a region, I could easily move that up. There's no harm in me moving that up, because it's still got the confluence of natural bodily structures in terms of body closures, wicks, and multiple levels. It just depends on how, essentially how close you want it in terms of, dynamic of levels. But for me, in and around that region, it's probably going to be a decent little area for the 786 region. But we've got to look as well a little bit higher. What's this level doing? This is a top level, 618 levels in and around that region. So we could probably leave that around the top where that body closures are. So for me, when I look at this level of structure for Bitcoin, we've already got it all set essentially. So where things have kind of been. So we don't really need much of the Fibonacci to kind of give us a pointer, but we know there's levels of structure here that we can probably pinpoint. This level is obviously important, 52,000. If we lose 52, we're going to go down to this 46 region, $46 region, $1,000, not $46, but you know what I mean. So fingers crossed we get this pullback, and I do think it's due. It's due, and I've been saying this for about a week now, that there's bearish divergences all over the place and the market looks very, very toppy. But this could be great for altcoins, it really could. And like, people will be like, what, why? But when you look at the dollar values, it looks horrible at the minute when you look into the right hand side of my list there. But look at the Satoshi values, are a lot lower. Essentially when money is brought into the market, we may well see some interesting moves into the altcoins very, very soon, which could trigger the next phase of the alt season, essentially moving money into certain places. But at the end of the day, it's very, very early days to see what happens, but this pullback with Bitcoin was required. Looking at the likes of Ethereum as well, we're at a support level. If I just, again, we'll do a double check with the Fibonacci in terms of where we are, but this is a much bigger move, by the way, as you can probably allude to. So if we're looking at, let's just say we'll go from the bottom to the top, essentially. We've got all kinds of levels we can look at. We've obviously got the 50% region there. We've obviously got the 382 here. We've obviously got levels of structure in and around us. But if we go on to like the daily time frame and have a little look in terms of where we could be going, if we're looking at the previous kind of there's not many obvious places, let's be honest. We could probably go from here, but at the end of the day, like, there's not much giving us clarity here. That's one level we can look at for obvious reasons, because it's like an obvious pullback. It's the start of the move. It's the start of that next uptrend potentially. But it's very, very, it's been quite a hard one to read essentially for like dynamic of the market. But if we're looking at overall trend patterns, it's looking very, very interesting. But if we go onto the weekly time frame and start just thinking, well, where the previous levels were, the previous all-time high, this is what we got. And I do think that this is going to be a level of support, but we've also got these levels here, 1,400. So this is the only dynamic that we've realistically got for this monster move. But what we could look at is a potential pullback, and then it may well shoot again as a potential cup and handle sort of scenario in the weekly time frame, which could be an absolute monster move. But I still think this is very much under the radar in terms of like bullish vibes, and I've mentioned this a few times. This was the region I'm looking at in terms of this. So I've been pinpointing this region on my analysis for ages now with the BTC pair. I feel that this is going to happen, and it looks pretty neat. when we look at that 618 levels of this impulse, this is like the pullback, this is the impulse going forward, the pullback into the trend, so it's still in an uptrend essentially, and this is maybe the launch point essentially. So it may well drop down a little bit lower, but it may also take off from this point in and around, because there's got a lot of demand levels in and around that region in my opinion. So we may well get a nice move to the upside from this point, which is why I'm kind of thinking this pullback for Bitcoin is good, especially if altcoins get a bit of the sunlight. Other things to look at as well, obviously we speak about Polkadot, Kusama. This again, it needs a pullback. Like anything, it's ridiculous. Look at the essentially looking at this. So I kind of did a few arrows on this in terms of the other day. It played out perfectly. But when we start looking at this overall picture, you know, we hit a top. We hit an obvious top. We're going to probably pull back into this level here, this previous all-time high, give or take, and we may well find a nice little level in and around that region. But it could be, it might not even pull back that far essentially, because what we could do with this one, we've obviously got an obvious level here. You know, it doesn't take much to work that one out. We might actually not go as far, we might actually only go as far as this level, give or take, but we also could go a lot lower. We just don't know in terms of how the market's going to shape up. But if we're looking at altcoin spillover, the retracement might be pretty, you know, non-existent for the BTC pairs. Fingers crossed if that is a situation. I'm hoping that is a situation anyways. Other things to obviously keep an eye on is obviously the total 2. You know, it has to pull back at some point. That's been ridiculously bullish, but we've been here before on a Monday and a Tuesday where it's pulling back. So, oh my God, it's like, oh. And then all of a sudden, boom, look at these wicks, for example. You can see, look at these wicks to the downs below. Every single time, pull back, boom, fuck off. It's literally gone to the moon. So we need to be very, very careful in terms of where we put our money, but the fundamentals of the market looks pretty strong. It's still bullish. We're still halfway through a bull season, but if there's a retracement on Bitcoin and it is a 38% retracement, for example, that doesn't bother me, because we may well see a nice cooling off period with that. Bitcoin relaxes and then altcoins thrive essentially. That is what the pattern usually is on the BTC pairs. Don't worry about your USD pairs. Worry about growing your Satoshis. That dominance hopefully falling because the altcoins have gone rampant. And at the end of the day, we've been talking about this potential pullback for ages. It's been ridiculous. And even when we're looking at this, look at that. That's on the weekly time. You cannot even ignore that bearish divergence in the RSI. It's monstrous. And in terms of structure, we've got a lot of structure to work on in the 3-day chart. Look at it. We got all these levels where we can literally pinpoint levels if we're looking to buy $40,000, $46,000, $52,000 essentially. So we'll see where we go. But if it's nice, if it's slow, it's gradual, it'll be great for altcoins to thrive. So, video done. Hope you enjoy. I'll see you again very, very soon.